Welcome to the new episode of 100% Tilted, discussions with winning underdogs. We have in the studio today a really cool guest, Major League Baseball player, Houston resident, Houston homeboy, got drafted out of high school. Got called up to the majors in 2018, got traded in 2020, got married along the way, and has had quite the journey. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. My name is Michael-David. To my right is eight-figure CEO Anthony Milton. And we have St. Louis Cardinals outfielder Austin Dean and his wife, Sarah Dean. Thank you guys for coming to the show.
Thank you guys for having us, man.
Absolutely. So how are you guys doing? How's this year been?
Well, it has definitely been rocky in my opinion. I mean, how do you prepare for, a national, actually not even national, just a global pandemic like that? So life as we know it, in my opinion, has just been altered, and, sports and, our everyday lives are, just now forever changed, and we never know when we're going to go back to normal reality, in my opinion. But, this whole year was just, you got to take what you can take, but I take it as a blessing that we were able to even have a season and to be able to do what we did. And, I was still very fortunate enough just to be able to play this year and just to be able to be a part of a team that has a winning culture and a winning mentality, and doing my very first playoffs. So, for a crappy year, I still take it as a plus side, just for the experience and just being able to get through it, itself.
How's the morale really on two levels? This just been challenging for everybody, but as a couple, has this been has it actually brought you guys together closer? And then morale as a team?
I think it brought us closer together as a couple. This is actually the longest we've ever spent together, because this is the first year that this is the first season I've ever traveled with Austin. So usually I stay home during the season and work. And so he's gone all year and I just go and travel, usually just around holidays. But this year I was able to go with him the whole time. But our relationship has grown a whole lot more. I mean, we had to quarantine together several times. And so we spent a lot of time in very small spaces together.
That is very true. With two large dogs as well.
Yep.
So,
no kidding?
Yeah.
What kind of dogs?
So we have a 100-pound German Shepherd, and then we have like 60-pound, we call her a mutt, but we don't know what she is. She's got a little bit of everything. But yeah, but I didn't even think, I told her too, I was very honest with her. I didn't know how it was going to go this year. And, our rules that we had by Major League Baseball were very strict. And I told her that we needed to make sure we followed them to a T and didn't break anything just to break protocol. I didn't want to be the guy that brought COVID into the clubhouse and, kind of ruin our season a little bit. So I wasn't one of them, but I ended up actually getting COVID because we had a big outbreak when we were in Milwaukee.
Really?
We were in Milwaukee, and I think, what was it, 7 players? 7 players had tested positive.
Wow.
And then we had to stay in Milwaukee for 7 days, couldn't leave our hotel room. The hotel staff would bring us food, knock on our door, they would bring us breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The only time we could leave was when we had to test on the 24th floor, and that was usually about 9 o'clock in the morning, and then another one at 11. So we were doing tests every single day, knocking them out, just to make sure that the guys that weren't positive were still not positive. But eventually it turned out to the very last day, we headed out. We didn't test that day. We land, we test at the St. Louis ballpark. The next day I get a phone call, hey, you're positive with COVID, along with 2 other guys. So, Yeah, it was unfortunate. We had little to no symptoms, kind of crushed it out, but I was down 3 weeks. Couldn't leave our apartment for 3 weeks. So that itself, I felt like it was challenging, and we managed to do our best at, handling that, I felt like. But,
how'd that affect the morale of the team?
I mean, I didn't think it affected it much. I think you have guys there that have 15 plus years of playing in the big leagues. So, I could imagine that they've gone through so many hiccups through the time, and, probably nothing like this, but in my opinion, everybody stayed very focused and very driven and they knew what the goal was and they knew what we had to do. So, a little obstacle thrown in the way, they knew how to handle it. So I thought the morale was perfect, and their business, the way they handled it was fantastic. So
coming up probably I imagine from Little League for you all the way through last playoff season. Prior to this last one, always play in front of crowds. Right, from the parent jail in Little League to the high school teams to the minors and so on and so forth. How was it in a playoff game with all that euphoria in an empty ballpark?
For my first playoff game ever, I think I kind of missed out on not having the fans. I thought that would have been cool, but still, the experience itself was still breathtaking in my opinion. It will forever be in my memories and a part of me. But I could imagine 30,000 people there would have been electric. So this is a whole season with no fans. I didn't mind it. I was actually kind of used to it. There was what was it? It was in Jupiter. It was our high A team there, and we get about maybe 6 to 7 people there. And then when I was in AAA New Orleans, it was worse. There was nobody there. So doing that, I was kind of used to it. It didn't bother me. But for some people, some guys enjoyed it. When you get heckled out in the outfield, like myself, especially when you go to Philly and you go to New York where people are not nice.
Really that harsh?
Oh, they're harsh, man. They go after every single bit of any flaw that you have, man. And that's why social media, they sit there and they try to do every little research possible just to get in your head. So it never really works.
Does it almost become just comedic with some of that? Okay, that was good.
I enjoy it. I sometimes enjoy it, and I chirp back at them, and it's just kind of like a little playful banter. And then some people, little drunkies out there, they take a little too far.
So with that respect, because there was a video that went viral, and some fans had stacked up some Budweiser cans, I think.
Oh yeah, it was
a bunch of beer cans, in a pyramid, and then you threw that ball from the outfield, and you hit the very top can, ding. Were you aiming for a fan?
So the story behind that, they had started the pyramid in the first inning. So immediately I'm already impressed that you've drank that many beers and got that high up there.
Where was this?
This was in Miami.
Okay.
So they, the left center field area was brand new. So we used to have this big sculpture there, and they finally took it out, and they built this new little tavern area. I forgot what it was called. It might have been Budweiser Alley or something. But so this is the first time it's been there all season. So yeah, they did it in the first inning. They were prompting me to do it, and they kept doing it each inning. And I think by the 6th or 7th, I'm like, all right, dude, I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. And so I finally go over there. I look at it, and in my mind, and I'll be honest with it, in my mind, I'm sitting there, I was like, I'm gonna try to knock the whole thing down, right?
Throw it up there, hit a can.
Just
Please
a can. Just a can.
Really, we weren't aiming for the top can?
No. Never was. I thought it'd be way cooler hitting the whole thing down. I thought that was the whole point. Yeah. And then I managed to hit the top one. Never thought anything of it. Sick, dude. I hit a can. And then I guess the guys were videoing, and after the game, 200, 300 texts. I had no idea what happened, and go on social media, and then overnight sensation. Dude, I still get, that's my stigma right now to me. Dude, you remember the guy that hit the beer can? That's Austin Dean. That's what's following me right now, which is not bad. I like it.
Legacy shows accuracy.
But when people ask me, were you trying to hit it? Nah, of course. Even after the game, Fox Sports and stuff like that, they asked me, and of course I said yes. Would never admit it, but at this point, I don't care. I'm very honest about it. I was trying to knock the whole thing over, thinking it was cooler, but you tell me to try to do that again, probably never in a million years.
Really? That was pretty dope, though.
It was cool. Still going back at it. It was very lucky, still cool, but that was a cool 3-4 days worth of press.
Did any of the beer companies or anybody reach out to you?
So Budweiser reached out to me when I got traded to the Cardinals. They reached out to me on Instagram, and they go, and I think MLB had posted that video the day I got traded. They said, look who's going to St. Louis. Budweiser messaged me, goes, if you could do this at Busch Stadium, we'll supply you with a free year of Budweiser. I was like, done. So, but my opportunity this year obviously didn't happen because of the fans.
Sucks, man.
But I thought that was super cool that they reached out. I was like, okay.
Can I get a rain check?
I mean, as much as I don't drink Budweiser, but still, I would have.
Hey, man.
Would have taken
we'll pass up a free beer.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
We go to 2 now.
But that whole experience was super cool. And again, that's something that sticks with me forever, I guess, now at this point.
So let's kind of go back. So when did you first start playing baseball?
I started at a young age with my dad, I think about 3 or 4 years old. My dad was a big football guy. He's got the football build. Never played baseball in his entire life. And I guess somehow I either slept with a bat, a ball in my crib, and, oh, that's fate, that's destiny. So it was baseball at a young age, and I guess I fell in love with it. And, you know, I played baseball, and then I played all three. I played basketball and football growing up as well. And then baseball was where I stood out. And my dad knew that. Everybody else knew that. And then when I was in high school, he came up to me and goes, "You going to play all three?" I'm like, "Oh, I want to. I like it." He goes, "Well, which one do you see yourself really having a future with or having a chance at?" I was like, "Baseball, obviously." He goes,
"Yeah.
Well, why are you wasting your time with the other two?" So from then I focused just on baseball, and he was a really good influence on me on, you know, taking the right path. And obviously, you know, as a kid, you know, you're going to be tempted with your friends and doing things and stuff like that. I was always scared to disappoint my dad. So I was very driven on just doing straight baseball and, you know, having the goal to go to college. That was just the main goal, was just go to college. And I think my sophomore year, I got a full ride scholarship to the University of Texas, even though I wanted to go to Oklahoma State. That was a little bit of at the time, like, University of Texas was the premier baseball college of the world, you know? So it was one of those things they couldn't pass up on the opportunity. But, you know, from then on, it was just I grew into the passion and the love for the game. And then as you got older, you're like, dude, I want to be in the big leagues. I want to be on TV with all these guys. So and it's crazy to look now, like, I watched Yadier Molina, Adam Wainwright, all these guys I grew up watching, and I finally got the opportunity to play with these guys and to play against these guys. And I even told them personally, I was like, dude, I grew up watching you. Like, this is so surreal. This is so cool just to be in front of you guys and, you know, your accomplishments that you guys have done and, you know, future Hall of Famers. And so I nitpicked every single information. I could just pry any information out of them just to, you know, obtain, just to learn from them and whatever. But, you know, I don't think I ever regretted not going to college. I think I knew deep down that I wanted to go play baseball. Like, that was my passion, my dream, what I wanted to do, and, you know, never looked back since.
There's a book called The One Thing, and it's by a guy named Gary Keller. Gary Keller is the founder of Keller Williams Realty, worldwide realty firm. He lives in Austin. And in the book, it's a great book, and it really talks about, from a business perspective, the discipline it takes to know that you can be good at a lot of different things, but to just narrow it down and be the best at one thing. So, you know, with his capital and his backing and his infrastructure and the equity he has, he can do anything he wants. He can open up restaurants and hotels and anything he wants to do. But he stays narrow focused just in residential and commercial real estate, only on the representation side and the transaction side. And he's very, very good at it, unbelievably good at it. Trains realtors across the world. You think you could have made it to the majors if you'd stuck with all three sports in high school?
No chance. I know there's a bunch of my teammates that all played football growing up, and they managed to somehow stick with baseball. Even though, personally, I love football. I wish I was good at football. I wasn't. So, you know, I do personally think that if I didn't have stuck with it, I don't think I'd have been in the game. I think if I even went to college, I don't even know if I would have been where I'm at right now. I feel like I'm a rare case with being a high school kid, getting drafted at 18-year-old, and you're immediately, as soon as you get drafted, you're gone away from mom and dad, just like college. You're gone away from mom and dad. You're by yourself. You're around a bunch of dudes that either don't speak English, a lot older than you, don't care about you. You know, they've been away from their parents just as much as probably you have. So a lot of it was just having to grow up and mature a little bit too, especially at a young age. And that's kind of a lot to ask for a kid. But I don't think my parents were worried in the sense that I wouldn't be able to take care of myself or get homesick, because I don't think I've ever really gotten homesick that much. I think I enjoyed being away and just playing baseball and just kind of the grind of, you know, the everyday life that we go through.
So you were a sophomore when you got the scholarship offer for UT, is that right? At what point did you all of a sudden hear, or how did you find out that you were being scouted by the majors?
I think when I got my offer from University of Texas, that obviously completely changed. That started opening eyes towards all the area scouts, which are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. So by like the end of my junior year, going into my senior year, I started getting a lot more calls from the area scouts about meeting up, want to do in-home visits, talk, you know, do all these showcases to get my name out there, to do what I can to be prepared for the June 5th for the MLB draft. So I met with all 30 ball clubs at my house.
Wow, really?
2-hour conversations with them, and you know, it was exhausting. Like I give a lot of credit to my parents for handling that. Like it was not easy. It was actually really difficult to kind of go through, especially for me being only 17, 18 years old at the time.
Yeah.
And without an agent.
And without an agent as well.
Really?
His dad acted as his agent going through all that.
So I credit my dad. We had agents come to our house. They wanted to represent me, and my dad was very cautious about who we let into our little circle, you know.
Yeah.
So
It was like sharks just trying to come in and get a piece.
pretty much, it was anybody that could just grab on and, I wouldn't say take advantage, but kind of take advantage of a naive kid and, you know, family that probably doesn't know much about, you know, being an agent or being represented and stuff like that. So, yeah, that I say by the end of my senior year is when I really knew that being drafted was a possibility.
How did life for you change in high school when that kind of became known? Hey, everybody wants to party with Austin.
I mean, not even. A lot of people said I was making the worst decision of my life. Oh,
Really?
Yeah. Oh, you should be going to college. How do you pass up University of Texas? And there was, I can't tell you how many times my dad and I sat nights talking, just what am I feeling? What am I thinking? You know, what am I worried about? I think he deep down knew what I wanted to do, and he let me make my own decision.
Really?
Which forever grateful for, and I think I made the right decision in my opinion.
What about your mom?
Oh, my mom was along for the ride. She wanted me just to be happy.
Oh, my baby's playing ball.
My mom is so proud. She loves. I mean, I'm not a big. I don't like telling people what I do because again, it's nobody's business, and I'm just not a big flashy person. It's like, oh, hey, I'm a Major League Baseball player. You know,
Yeah.
that's just not how I roll. When somebody comes and talks to me and asks me what I do, it's like, yeah, I play baseball. Oh, for who? St. Louis Cardinals. And then that's when the conversations roll, and then that's when question. They want to get everything out of me. But yeah, my mom's a very proud person, I'd say, right?
What do you think are some of the lessons that you got as a kid coming up, and did a lot of that come from your dad, from your coaches, that really kind of, because it takes a different mentality, right? Especially, I mean, from Little League, and then you start going into prime ball, and you end up playing for, you know, high school team that are getting scouted by college. There has to be a particular work ethic. Where do you think you got that? Because nobody that ends up at the 1% where you are did it because they just skirted by, right? There's a certain level of work and self-discipline that you've got to have, right? Where do you think you got that?
I actually truly believe that I developed my work ethic when I got into pro ball. I think no, seriously. I always sit back and look back. I was
Didn't expect that.
Oh, I know. I wish I would have done more in high school. I solely relied on my pure ability of playing. I didn't know how important weight training was. Like, I didn't really start lifting weights until my senior year in high school. And from then on, after my senior year and I got into pro ball, from then on, that's when I really started okay, my body is very important. Because you go in as an 18-year-old, you're 175 pounds, and you get 21, 22-year-old that's 220 and kind of stacked. Kind of changed your mind a little bit. But being in pro ball really taught me the work ethic part. Because if you're a lazy dude, you're not going to be able to hang. You know what I mean? So, again, and that's when I talk about the maturity process of being a young kid, being around a bunch of older people that have been around there, have done certain things. So you kind of learn, you develop a little bit, but everybody asks, like, what do you wish you'd have done looking back? I wish I would have started a lot younger, like 13, 14, getting in the gym and doing more than I could have.
Your dad, was he a driver of you need to go practice, or
Dude,
he just kind of let you do whatever you wanted to do?
I told him I wanted to go. I wanted to hit every day. I wanted to go throw. And he worked a lot of nights that even after you get home 6:30, we'd go to the field and go hit. You know, and then on the weekends, it's the same thing. We'd go hit at night, go do whatever. So he took a lot of time out of his day that he could have spent with my mom or my sister, but we spent a lot of time together just trying to get myself better.
So how many siblings do you have?
Just one, just an older sister.
Older sister?
Yeah, she was not an athlete.
Sorry, Lauren.
Sorry. No, I tell you that. She was. She did a lot of sports. She played a little bit of softball. She did track, but we know who the athlete was.
Little baby bro.
Yeah, little baby bro had it. But I will say though, she was a lot faster than I was. We would always race each other growing up. Yeah, she was a lot quicker than I was. Surprising enough to know that about my sister. So,
when you got drafted, describe that day.
So the whole process was, the very first day, the one that everybody sees on TV is all the guys making the big money, right? The first rounders, and I knew I wasn't part of that. Just from all the scouts I talked to, which, you know, sucks, but, you know, you still watch hoping to get a phone call. But that next day process that nobody really sees it's minute after minute after minute getting phone calls, getting, you know, people getting selected. So that second day process was a little stressful. I think I got about 6 or 7 calls from different teams. Hey, we're going to take you this round. Didn't happen. You know, it's a lot of disappointment. And then I got to a point where I was just getting so frustrated, like thinking this wasn't going to happen. And then, you know, I finally get the phone call. The Marlins had drafted me at 134. I think that's what it was. 134. And
4th round, I think, right?
Yeah, 4th round. And I didn't, like, we were watching it on a computer and then live streaming it. And I'm sitting there, I was like, all right, this didn't happen. And then finally you see your name. It hits, you know, excitement. First thing I did, hugged my mom and dad, told them I love them, said thank you guys for everything that you've done, you know, all the sacrifices that you guys have made just to get me to this point. And, you know, obviously call my sister, who exhilarated, still probably my number one fan besides this one. But no, it was.
Were you guys together then?
No, I hadn't met her yet. I didn't meet her until a couple years after. So, but it was just a cool experience just to be with my family, just to be a part of that. So, and I'm forever grateful for that.
So real talk, honest, like guy to guy here, when you got the call, you got drafted, was there like this internal going, oh shit, yeah, I'm a pro baller now?
I don't think it really said it until I got there. But even then though, like the whole stigma of being a professional baseball player is just so far-fetched. Like people think we live this glamorous lifestyle, and it's so not. You know, people don't talk about the grind and the struggle that being a professional baseball player goes through. You know,
what do you go through?
Yeah. So being a minor league baseball player, so
you got drafted by the Marlins, but then you didn't go the bigs.
No, that's not how it works. You don't go straight to the big leagues.
Even with these big $1 million players in their contracts? Really?
No. I think, who was it? There are very few guys that have been drafted and when immediately got called up to the big leagues. So usually what happens when you get drafted, you go straight into rookie ball or short season, and you spend 60 games there, and that's your season. Next year you come into spring training, get evaluated. They make the decisions on where you go. So as a minor league baseball player, you make less than minimum wage at McDonald's.
Get out.
You make less than that. I can recall one of my paychecks being $400 or $500 for a 2-week pay period. And then you're expected to live and eat off that and find a place to stay at, all under budget. Like I said, nobody talks about what guys go through. And like I remember I've had to stack up with 4 or 5 other guys in an apartment just so we could pay rent. And I'm sleeping on an air mattress on the ground.
Sounds like a lot of Totino's pizza.
Oh yeah, you can ask.
That's like bachelor living at its finest.
Hey, how was sandwiches and raviolis?
Really? How was my eating habits?
Oh, it was awful. When we first met, he lived on Dino Nuggets and Subway.
Get out.
There was a Subway right next to our apartment, and if he didn't go to his parents' house for his grandmother to cook for him, he would go to the Subway right next door to us, and they knew him by name. I was like,
you got a habit of this, Austin.
This is a problem.
It was bad. So like when we first lived together in an apartment, I would go to my parents' house, which was 5 minutes down the street. They'd cook me breakfast. My grandma would either cook me breakfast or lunch while she was working, and then I'd come back to the apartment.
So did you know this going in when you got drafted? Like, was there this moment of thinking like, oh, I'm high rolling now, but then all of a sudden you show up and it's like, whoa, this is not what I was expecting?
Oh, that was the first thing.
Really?
Yeah. Thought I was, this hot stuff coming in, and then everybody's just as good or better than you. It was a reality check. It really was. So me being the person I am, I'm very, I want to say strong-willed, but I'm very determined on, proving myself, proving people wrong. So that was a big thing, especially when you have a 16-year-old, Dominican Republic kid who's better than you. It sometimes it kind of gets you there a little bit. Like, nobody talks about it, but a lot of my Latin teammates, they are very good baseball players, and they come from nothing. Their struggle is 10 times worse than what I went through. A lot of those guys, what they would do, their money that they would make, they would send it home to their families. There were a lot of guys that I played with that they wouldn't be eating. They wouldn't eat for 2 weeks because they were sending money home to their families.
No kidding. Mm-hmm. So what does the team pay for the hotel and the travel and all that?
So
do they give you like a per diem or something? Or?
Yeah. So during spring training, they give you a per diem. It's changed every single year. I don't know how much it was, but it was barely enough for us to live off a weekly for food.
Wow.
Yeah. So
they provided food for y'all at the stadium, but it was like the grossest meat that you could possibly. I would just be like, okay, just don't eat the bread. When he was trying to eat healthy, I was like, only eat the meat. He was like, Sarah, if I don't eat the bread, I can't eat the meat. And I was like, why? And he was like, you don't want it.
I called them prison sandwiches. That's what they were. It was incredible, like the concoctions that people came up with. I remember it was the same thing. It was a turkey sandwich every single day. I'd get some Doritos, crush them up, put them in there. Maybe I put mayo on there one day. Maybe I didn't. But there's guys getting tuna, some Cholula sauce, putting all in there, putting whatever they could just to change it up.
Damn,
but that happened
nutrition right there.
That happened for years.
They have since changed their food program.
Yes. That was for
when Derek Jeter took over, he redid all their food so they could actually have nutrition. They expect them to have these high performance bodies and do all this stuff, but they're had been feeding them garbage.
Yeah.
And Jeter came in and realized that because he had gone through some of it and saw what the minor league guys and major league guys were getting. He was like, yeah, we can't have this happen. You have to fuel your body correctly in order for it to perform correctly. Mm-hmm. So he took over the Marlin stuff and made that right.
So that's through the farm team on up. Really.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of teams now are actually putting a lot of money into nutrition for the minor league guys, and when you're in the big leagues, dude, the meals there are 10 out of 10, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. They're very good. Everybody's got you have your own chef. When you go on the road, they have a chef for you as well. For the most part, I think the food's really good. And then sometimes you kind of get your days where you just get room service when you go back. So that was me. I would partake in that.
Yeah.
But
when you were playing through the minors, everybody's goal is to get called up to the majors, right? So you were talking about just everybody's kind of out for themselves. How do you take a mentality where everybody's out for themselves to get visibility, yet play as a team?
It depends.
That's always fascinated.
It depends, because there was a lot of guys that I played with that are very me, get my own, trying to get my way to the big leagues. I never went through that because I have such a very winning mentality where I know that it's going to take myself and everybody collectively as a whole for us to win. And my stigma of it, I think winning is a big factor into player development. So a lot of teams out there, they don't care if you win. And I think that's asinine. So what's the point of playing baseball? What's the point of playing a sport if you're not going to win? You're just going to go out there and just go have fun. I get it. It's a kid's game. That's what everybody says. Baseball's a kid's game. But you got to win.
Well, J.J. Watt just came out on this press conference, and very emotional delivery of, the season's not over. Yeah. You've got to run through the finish line here. We're paid handsomely to play a game.
Yes.
Right. And if you're not here to win, you're not here to finish through, why are you playing this game?
Exactly. He had every right. He had every right to say what he did, and I respected that. But some guys' approach isn't that way. They're out there just to get theirs and to get their money and live their life. That's fine. There are other people out there that are wanting to win. They want more than just money. They want to be a legacy or, be remembered by something, So that's how I've always felt. I've always played the game hard and I've always wanted to win. I hate losing as much as probably anybody else does,
In business, there's a good similarity there because in a consumer services world, whether it be a retail environment or a restaurant environment, you have the same setting. Yet the location doesn't operate unless the whole team operates.
Exactly.
But if your goal is just to collect a paycheck, then you don't really care. But if the goal is to strive or to achieve the next level of promotion or to be a leader, it's a tricky piece on how you set yourself apart from your work teammates, and show whoever it needs to be done that you're have the ability and the capability and the desire to be a leader. At the same time, propping the team up so you win together.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, when I was in the restaurant business, I worked for a company called Texas Roadhouse. This was probably 1999. There was a grill cook. His name was D. 6'11" guy. He grew up in Senegal. One of the fastest grill cooks I ever saw. So steaks, chicken, burgers, so on and so forth. And you could just take them off the grill a few minutes faster than they should have been done. So a medium steak should take 9 to 10 minutes. He'd have it done in 6. And he'd be proud of himself because his grill's empty and all the food's behind him where the next guy plates it up, puts the potatoes on, that kind of stuff. But the food always came back because by the time I got to the customer, often it was cold or it was overcooked or it was something because it was too good for the rest of the team. So in that particular time frame, we had to slow him down. He had to understand that it's supposed to take 8 minutes for a reason because the process fails if the whole collective line doesn't follow the process.
See, and I feel like the process, whether it's in baseball or it's in business, is huge. You have to go through the process to learn like that. Just because you got it quick doesn't mean it's efficient, So you got to make sure, in that sense, I feel like you got to make sure your food is at least somewhat right before you're getting it, send it off, I feel like. So you got to take pride. I feel like pride is a big thing in anything that you do. You got to take pride in something and show that you're willing to learn, to accept, or just to take in information and just being coachable. And I say coachable. I don't know how business word for that in the restaurant business, but
that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, being coachable, in my opinion. Like that's a big thing that, especially a lot of younger kids now that I see, they don't know how to be coachable. They always think they're right, or it's, I'm losing the.
What do you think? Like some, because they're kind of used to being catered to, right? As they start to get a little bit better, so it's kind of they're kind of enabled to a degree.
The soft mentality is the way I look at it. It's just if they don't win, it's let's throw a fit. The participation awards, that's my big pet peeve.
You don't like those?
No, I didn't like them. I didn't like them when I got them when I was a kid. Like I didn't hang them up on a wall. Like you can ask my mom and dad. Like I had all my trophies growing up. First place. I didn't even put my second place ones up. First place. I didn't want to look at second place. Like I was never satisfied with that. But it seems like kids are just okay of just getting a little blue ribbon that says participation reward. I wouldn't do that to my kids whenever I have them. Like I want them to learn the value of working your butt off and receiving something that you earned. And that's how my dad was. If after a tournament we lost, it wasn't, hey, you'll get them next time, buddy. It was, what can we learn from this? He was really hard on me like that, but I also think that helped me to mature a little bit quicker and kind of have my the right thought process on how I'm going to go about my business in baseball.
Yeah. Do you think participation trophies are? This is like a huge soapbox for me, but do you think these are creating a softer athlete?
Yes, I do. I 100%.
Truth bomb is yes.
Yes,
So
I 100% do.
You got to lose in order to figure out where your victory can be better.
How many times have I talked about this? You have to fail in order to really understand what the main goal and the purpose is. If you sit there and you succeed, and then you fail, I feel like you're setting yourself up a little bit
for a huge cliff.
Huge letdown.
Letdown. So there have been so many people that we've known that same thing. Like they'd failed once and it off the deep end, and they've never been the same because they've never been told no, or they've never failed at something.
One of the hardest things to do in business is have a location that's unsuccessful.
Yes.
Because you think of all the time, energy, effort, capital into it, from just the resourcefulness of the capital to leasing or purchasing, to the build out, to the marketing, to the hiring, the development, the talent, the outreach, the marketing, the whole 9 yards. And then for whatever reason, sometimes internally it's the fault, sometimes externally it's the fault, sometimes it's not the right timing, the environment, a location fails. It sucks.
I could imagine. I could imagine in the business world that it's probably 100 times worse than what I would go through as an athlete. You know,
I feel like it's probably about the same. I mean, think about how much time, money, and effort you've put into playing baseball, and how many of the guys that you've played with have been released or retired. I mean, they spent their whole lives. Their parents spent a ton of money, and they spent a ton of money, a lot of their time that they could be doing other things. And
got a point.
In the
I love
participation,
when truth is just dropped.
I mean, it's kind of it's kind of the same thing. I mean, you might not look at it that way, or some people might not look at it that way, but you're investing in a business, but this is investing in your career. Yeah. And it's whether your parents did it with you all the way growing up, and then after college or before college, you're still investing and taking 6 months out of the year away from your family and away from a job that you could have gotten if you would have gone to college and making more money, but you decided to go the other route and make far less money.
Make a minimum wage.
to make a bigger profit in the end.
I do. When I tell people about that, the less than a McDonald's worker, they never believe me. I was like,
I paid more into taxes than he made some years.
No kidding.
Yes. I wish I kept a pay stub just so I could just show people like the glamorous lifestyle of the minor leagues that you think happens does not happen. So
the competitive nature in business is probably, I would say, it's probably nearly as intense as it is in professional sports.
I could imagine it is.
The thing I like about the competitive nature is it keeps you on your toes, because you know that if you don't wake up early that day and you don't give it 100%, and you don't have the foresight and the thought process, then somebody else will. And we have competitors in all of our brands that are massive compared to our size. They have MBAs and doctorates and private equity groups and 20, 30 years in business, and here we are scrappy and young trying to make it and figure it out still. So we know that we have to get up earlier and be smarter than them and be more resourceful and deal with limited capital and limited energies and not enough time of the day. And there's a story, so I'll try to say the story without saying the company's name. We have 4 locations for Tune Up the Manly Salon in one concentrated area. And a competitor of ours opened up right in the middle of the 4 stores. 3 of them were corporate-owned stores, and one's a franchise store. And when he's getting ready to open up, he said, okay, we're going to need to go after him. Right? You've got a competitor in our backyard. I drove past the location 3 or 4 times a day. It's on my way to my office. I'm on my way home from my office. My kid's school's right there. We have locations on both ends. The sports bar I go to is right there. The restaurant I go to is right there. It's like he followed me around and saw where my habits were at, and then said, I'm just going to open up where Anthony's at. And, if nothing else, just to get in his mind a little bit. So we're coming up with this game plan. Like, what we got to do? Do we have to do extra marketing? Do we have to? And the reality is that we just need to reinforce what we already did. We made sure we didn't become lackadaisical. We reinforced the practices, the principles, the customer outreach, the attention we gave to the customers. He's getting very, very limited traction in terms of his sales, and all 4 of our locations are up over this time last year with coronavirus. That's awesome. So yeah, we lost a couple of people that seemed to get a little too comfortable in their job, which is unfortunate to lose somebody. Yeah. It probably happens a lot of times in sports where they just get a little too comfortable, a little too lackadaisical. They earned it, so they have to prove it again.
Oh, dude, you can't imagine how many guys I've seen at least gone through that. They think that everything should be given to them, nothing to prove. Happens a lot. I mean, it's a dose of reality, you know. You
haven't tasted enough pain.
Yeah.
Without pain, there's no progress.
100%.
You know, you have to have that, because it's not that you don't want pain. It's that you want that intrinsic sensation of accomplishment when you do actually win, because you've tasted loss, you've tasted failure, you've tasted I'm better than that kind of thing.
The disappointment.
Yeah.
That's my biggest thing, is the disappointment. For years, it was, I can't disappoint my dad. And this is when her and I were together, still trying to figure out our lives and how we're supposed to kind of just go on our own path, you know? And it took me about the longest time to realize that, you know, it's not about disappointing, you know, at least my father or my parents at this point. It's like they want to see me just happy, you know, doing what I love to do, and just knowing that I'm doing what I want to do and knowing that I'm going after my ambition. So, but I do think that for me, I think disappointment was like a huge factor. Like, I never wanted to disappoint anybody, and especially myself or her. That's my biggest one now, is I don't want to disappoint you.
You're a huge proponent of balanced foods. Do we need to bring in dino nuggets?
I think so.
He would sell y'all out.
Dude,
of
I'd
dino nuggets.
be the biggest advocator of balanced foods. yo, this just in, Dino Nuggets with a twist. They're good for you. They don't have all those trans fat, nothing gluten. Oh my God, don't say that. I would do it. That's no joke though. It was Dino Nuggets and pizza rolls. Not even really pizza rolls, but
We'd make our own pizza.
we'd make our own pizza. We'd make our own Hot Pockets. Like we were like really kind of into that little phase.
Yeah.
So, but we
I
did.
also didn't know how to cook for a while, so
Yeah, you didn't know. You've come a long way with cooking and just, you know, I give her a lot of props because again, it is not easy to have to deal with me or the profession that I'm in.
Yeah.
It takes a very special person. So I'll give you a little background story about us. So we had met in 2013. We had started dating in December.
'Cause you got drafted in 12, right?
In 2012.
Yeah.
So I'd met her about a year after I got drafted, and I didn't tell her what I did as my profession or anything like that.
How'd you guys meet?
You want me to tell them?
go for it.
All right. So we actually met on Instagram.
Like any true millennials.
Like any true millennial, we met on Instagram before
You slid in the DM?
before DMs
were a
DMs.
thing.
But
DMs weren't a thing then.
to make it not sound bad in this way, but it was what really kind
We
of
met on the internet.
what really kind of sparked our interest was our dogs. So she had Daisy, which is our little black dog, and I had my German Shepherd. I just got her after. That was my big purchase, by the way, was a German Shepherd after getting drafted. It wasn't a car. It wasn't a house. It was a $500 German Shepherd. That's and I tell that that's the best $500 I've ever spent.
That was your Lamborghini.
That was my Lamborghini to me.
Yeah.
It's like that's my pride and joy. So she had saw my dog on Instagram, and you know we played the whole liking game. You know, I was like, is this girl? So I finally we kind of like reached out and we talked and we.
Did you come across his profile?
Mm-hmm. So
Okay.
I went to spring high school. He went to Klein Collins, so it was really close. I played softball all growing up. He played baseball, and so we had a whole lot of mutual friends.
Oh, okay.
Just from like the baseball softball community, and I knew
But you
a
had
lot
no
of.
idea he.
I
was
never
drafted?
knew who she was, but you said you knew. I don't think you really knew who I was
No, I
either.
didn't know who you were.
It was like so we never really crossed paths, but we knew the same people.
Okay.
So like I would ask, and some of my friends like, "Oh yeah, I know her." I'm like, "What you got?" Oh, thanks. You're the big help, dude. So, but our first date went to CC's Pizza, and I didn't eat. I was so nervous not to eat.
You wouldn't eat. I downed 2 whole pizzas by myself.
Even then,
That's respect.
oh yeah. Even then, you took down a barbecue and a Alfredo pizza.
It was my carb day,
Dang.
okay?
Yeah. So, but that's how. So we met on that, and then we took our dogs to a dog park, and it was a little date, if you want to call it that. And our dogs kind of hit it off, and then we kind of just stuck around. We kept texting, we kept talking to each other, and I don't know when I dropped the ball on you telling you that I was a baseball player or not, but we had dated that whole point, and then it's about 3 months, and like, hey, I got to go to spring training. Okay, so we would go months without seeing each other. Our first year, like
Yeah,
months.
he had only dated for less than 3 months, and then he left.
So
And I didn't see him until May. He left in February, and I didn't see him again until May.
Wow.
Just like,
But that was a lot of our relationship, though. It was, I'm going and playing baseball, chasing the ambition and the dream. Not really like my paycheck's really gonna help, but she was at home working, and you know the money that I would make, I tried to save up as much as I can so I could help out. And then when baseball was over, I'd come back home and I would get a job. So for me, it was doing baseball lessons with kids around the area. And my first year, dude, I crushed it. I made a lot of money just doing lessons, trying to help pay for rent. So being an adult, so you're having to become an adult, which sucks, by the way, being an adult. But had to do that, and then I did that for years, every year. And it was.
Were you making more money doing that than you
Yes,
were actually playing?
I was.
Get out. That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy? I made more money doing lessons outside of playing baseball. So, but
playing baseball gave you the marketability to
yes.
be. Yeah.
But I was like, oh, professional baseball player, got to do lessons to this guy.
Yeah.
So, but it also helped that I was a pretty well-known name around at least this area. So that helped my, I guess, market, if you want to call it that.
Mm-hmm.
But so did a couple years of that. It was the same thing. It's like each year we'd see see each other a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And then I finally hit a point when I came home. I told her, I was like, I'm not gonna work anymore. We had just moved into our house, and I told her that I was at a point in my career where I was like, all right, I'm getting close. I'm getting close to finally getting to the big leagues. I'm like, I'm just going to strictly focus on baseball. So I did that for a couple of years, and we struggled a little bit, and then
Took a financial hit.
not big, but just enough where it kind of just put a little bit of a toll on us. Like just what money does. Money does that to everybody. And again, that's the thing that you have to go through in life, I feel like. And I feel like that's another reason why our relationship now is a lot stronger and better than it was in previous years. Like we had a lot of rough patches just because of financial reasonings. And again, not being able to see each other was another big factor. And we never had trust issues. I was very, very adamant about what I wanted to do. And a lot of my teammates would go out after games, which I didn't know how they did. It's like, bro, like,
So tired all the time.
I was so exhausted.
And how do you afford it?
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. How do you go out and do that and like do that to yourself? I just couldn't do it. Like there are so many guys that I just lost in baseball because they just didn't know how to, I wouldn't even say manage, but just get their priorities straight. You know, that's what happens to a lot of guys, in my opinion. So,
do you think there needs to be better business management or money management?
But you
at
can't.
least guidance.
You can't though. In that profession, you can't. It's who's willing to sacrifice the most. And I felt like that's what I felt like I did. I sacrificed a lot of I sacrificed a lot of my time. Like there could have been things I could have been doing that maybe I wanted to do or I could have done, but I still don't look back at it and regret any of it by any means. But there's a lot of things that we both sacrificed. We've sacrificed time together, of time to getting to really know each other and spending time together. So, and again, that's something that I'm really proud that you've managed to stick through those really awful years that we had to go through. Not awful in the sense of that, but just in the sense of what we had to go through and stuff like that.
So when you realized he was a ball player and he was going to spring training, as the girlfriend, as being at home, was there any level of distrust or just I don't know if I'm gonna stick this out with a ball player?
It was
because the stigmas.
Yeah,
and,
it was.
You know,
I didn't necessarily not trust him. It was more everybody else trying to put stuff in my head. The first thing was that my dad didn't believe that he played baseball because I told him he played for the Miami Marlins, and he goes, "Sarah, there's no such thing as Miami Marlins." And I was like, "Yes, there is." And he goes, "No, it's the Florida Marlins. He's lying to you. He doesn't even know what the team's called." But they had literally just rebranded, so they had just changed their name. My dad doesn't pay attention to the Marlins; he only pays attention to the Astros. And so I was like, "You're the first person that's already doubted this. Okay, you're only the second person I've told. Great, besides my mom." But I had so many people trying to like just shove doubt in our relationship before we even took off. I mean, and it was
even friends that knew me were trying to put a stigma on me about how I'm such this crappy person. When I'm like, how do you know? Like, you've never been around me, dude. Like, you just only heard my name. You've heard what other people said. That's not true. So,
but I mean, his mom and I actually talked about it yesterday. Austin and his dad are very similar in the fact that they give trust until it needs to be taken away.
Until it's broken, yeah.
And then his mom and I are very similar in the fact where you have to gain my trust. Everybody starts off at like even level, but you have to gain my trust in order to get it. And he gained my trust very early. I mean, we had some bumps in the road a little bit early with some other girls that he was talking to early, and we got those out of the way. And then after that, I knew that it was going to be okay.
That was
and
early on before
it
I
was
knew
just
we were serious.
You had to clear out the DMs, get rid of all the girls.
It was communication, and communication has always been really big in our relationship. I mean, we bicker like anybody else bickers and argue, but we talk through everything. We don't ever just let things fester. Like that old thing, like never go to bed angry. We literally never go to bed angry. And if we do go to bed angry, we've at least talked it out before then.
And also, I know for me, if something's not right at home and like my wife and I need to talk it out, I got to get that straight because my brain, I'm held back. Like it just eats on you. You deal with that too? Like you got to get things right at home so you can allow yourself to have the ability to just, I don't know. I can't.
There was a lot with that. I would try and really make sure if we were bickering about something that we would clear it up before one of his games started, especially when I wasn't with him, because I wasn't going to be the one or the reason that he played bad, especially because in the beginning it was him and his dad with baseball.
Oh, God.
And I didn't mess with baseball. I even planned my trips around when his parents went so his dad could have his time with him. Now we all go together, but it was their time, and I needed to make sure I wasn't in the way, because his parents just wanted to do what was best for him and make sure that I wasn't standing in his way. I wasn't going to make him be a head case, and that was my big thing. I didn't want to be in his way. I was never, even if we weren't going to work out, I didn't want to hold him back from his career. That wasn't something that I wanted to stand in the way of, even if we didn't work out. I mean,
It took my parents a long time to really kind of grasp onto that. I feel like,
I mean, that's where any parent wants the best for their kid, and they don't want anybody else to screw it up.
Yeah, it took my dad the longest time to be my dad versus being my coach as a kid. Dude, we butted heads so much, even when I was in the minor leagues. So he would be able to at least listen to the games, or when I got to AA, he was able to watch every single one of the games. So, and there are times like, dude, he'd still call me after games. Hey, why'd you do this, 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 and this? And we would sit there, talk every single game. And it got to a point where my mental state was just not stable enough, where if I was having doubts of even playing baseball and if I wanted to come home. So I finally sat there.
Did you almost quit?
I don't think I ever wanted to quit. It was in my head. I definitely had thoughts of like, why am I still doing this? Why, like, just like anybody else, when you hit like a low point in your career where nothing's going right, you know, I don't want to say everybody's against you, but you just feel like all the weight is just on top of you. And I felt like that in 2016. And I finally told my dad, I was like, be my dad, don't be my coach. I don't need that right now. I need to talk to my dad. So, and him and I's relationship has built ever since that. And we still talk about baseball all the time. We sit there, we talk for about 30, 45 minutes sometimes after a game. And we'll just, shoot the shit and, talk a little bit. But he has definitely transitioned to that role a lot better than I probably could have asked for.
Was that so? When you would go and play, and then you come back home, and it's just like family time. Did your dad always was he just always in that coaching position?
I remember we talked about it because our dads were just as similar. Like as a kid growing up, after a game, like when I was like 8, 9, 10, there'd be times like if I didn't like do the right thing, I'm getting an earful from my dad. The car ride home as a child was not fun.
Never fun.
Like the talking about disappointing your father.
Yeah,
that's what it felt like.
Oh, yeah.
It was terrifying. You're sitting there like, God, dude, I hope he doesn't scream at me. Please don't scream at me. But it took, like I said, but I wouldn't say he did that to me in pro ball, but like we would fight like that sometimes on the phone. We would butt heads like really, really bad where we wouldn't talk to each other for like months.
It wasn't months.
Anthony, let me ask you this, because in the culture of the company, and for you going for years through past ventures, there's a lot of people that have stuck with you, right? And there's part of your mantra too is you don't want to do business with those you just can't sit down and have a beer with and hang out with and be friends with. For you, do you find it's easier for you to make a disconnect between business relationship and then after hours hanging out? And then do you feel like people have a hard time making that distinction too?
No, that's definitely an opportunity. When we started businesses years ago, I went through the restaurant business, sometimes hating my bosses, hating my peers, dreading coming to work. And the thought process in that type of business is use your work time to get vacation from your spouse or your free time. And then your home life is your vacation from your work life, right? And you kind of toggle the two between. So when you open the door, you check out of your home life and you go into your work life, and then vice versa. I didn't like the mentality because why would I spend a third of my life with people I don't want to be around?
Yeah.
Right. So whether it be someone that works in the company or a franchisee or a vendor or a business partner we have, our theory is if I can't sit and have a beer with you, I just want to be around you. I just want to do business with you. I won't hire you. Benefit of that is there isn't a separation of family and business. It's all in the same, right? So family works for us, friends work with us, everything across the board. So our opportunity is when there's time that's not business related, Thanksgiving dinner is an example. How do you disconnect and not talk about the location or the project or the construction? How do you then push the business away and say, okay, now let's talk about some family stuff? It's unique. Those people are trying to draw the family into the business. I'm trying to sometimes push them away a little bit.
I was about to ask you, but like, how do you really separate that? Because I know with my family, pretty much my entire family, they're all in the same business. They're all in together. and it's constantly work. Work is not separated from the house. It's constantly brought in. I'm gonna say, like, if I was in your shoes, I'd be the same. I'd feel like I'd be the same way, that I'd feel like I'd want to at least have a relationship with my employees, but boundaries.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like the boundaries is like a huge portion of it. But like, you talk about your work ethic, and I think that's huge about you showing your dedication to this company is probably going to reflect off how your employees go about their business.
To prove it first,
Yes.
right? So it's nice because I can have 150 people over my house for a Christmas party or Halloween party. We stayed at a Halloween party a couple months ago. 150 people at the house. And I trust every one of them. I have to have security. I have to lock things up. People that I work with, friends, family. Biggest benefit around the friends and family being involved in the business, there's no entourage or mooching mentality.
Yeah.
They all earn their own keep. They work just as hard as I do, if not harder. They bring just as much to the table as I do, if not more. So it's not like we're not carrying a dead weight around.
Yeah.
Because some people just want to be around.
That's huge. I feel like you have to surround yourself with people that you're willing to be surrounded with, and you know that you can count on day in and day out. I think that's huge for any
Not when
business.
not when it's up, not when sales are great or you're up 10-1, right?
Yeah.
So when you're getting your ass kicked.
Yeah,
Who's gonna
exactly.
steal
The
their-
people that
stick
you know
around
you
you?
can count on, that you know that can get shit done.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in that. So I'm just like a big believer, just surrounding yourself with happy people, you know, like people that have the mentality to, you know, oh, rain's not going to ruin my day, or just like the slightest something's going to ruin your day, and you're going to damn the world and be pissed off at everybody, you know, like, you know, we've gone through that. Like, sometimes there were just reasons why I just wasn't happy, or, you know, something just ruined my day, and now I just look more of a brighter outlook on it. And, you know, going to church was a lot of it, actually, just kind of getting closer to God and just doing that, and just kind of just giving myself up, you know, and just kind of letting everything out, because she'll tell you I'm a pretty much bottled up individual. I let things bottle up so much just because I don't.
Glass case of emotion.
Yeah. There's been very few times where I've really let a lot of my emotion out, and it's nice to have somebody to sit there and talk to about it. And, you know, you feel vulnerable, and I'm perfectly okay to do that in front of my wife and be able to sit there and talk about everything that I need to get off.
Mm-hmm.
So
Sarah, you know, every time you probably get around people, it's, you know, good to meet you. You know, what's Austin like? How's Austin? Everything's about Austin.
Everything's about Austin.
But there's a huge 2/3 of Austin that is behind the scenes. Kind of walk us through what it's like to be married in a relationship with a guy that's a pro ball player.
It's not particularly easy. I mean, for a lot of wives of professional athletes, I mean, you have a choice of, if you're not living in the same city already, your choice is to stay and work or to not and to go with them. So I ended up leaving my job this year, but and thankfully they let me come back every so often. But
oh, they're awesome people.
But I mean, that was really my choice because I can't do my job from home. But I mean, those were my options. My option was to see my husband or to not see my husband because he's gone all the time. And it's just, it's a really hard thing to do. I mean, to be supportive of him when he's doing great, and to try and, I'm a very, what's that word? I can't think of it now. I lost it.
But I think that,
I lost my whole
you
train
know,
of thought.
whether it's love, whether it's commitment in the workplace, you know, commitment to the mission, it's easy to be committed when everything's going easy, when the numbers are high, when the win and everything feels good. But love isn't really love. Commitment's not really commitment until your ass is against the wall, until numbers are down and people are bailing because it doesn't benefit them anymore. Love is love when it doesn't feel like love anymore. It feels like work, but that's part of that discipline of love, because love is an action verb, right? But it's hard when probably like we all have an ego, right? And how long can somebody feel like they're just kind of behind the scenes? They're kind of forgotten about and just overlooked when it's always about Austin. Do you ever have that point? It's like, Jesus Christ, can it just be about you?
Does anybody actually care? Yeah. I have a lot of that. I mean, there was times in the minor leagues that we would only talk for 2 or 3 minutes a day, maybe 1 or 2 text messages. Because, I mean, he would be on a bus all night long after a game, and they wouldn't get to the hotel until 3 or 4 or 5 in the morning, and he would be asleep. I would be up at work, so I couldn't check my phone. And then he would get to the field while the time I was off of work and could look at my phone. And so he couldn't text me back. And so we wouldn't talk all day until after his game when I'm exhausted and I need to go to sleep so I can go to work the next day.
And I'm exhausted
from his game. And so we would talk on the phone, literally just call and say, hey, I love you. Good night. And we'd hang up. We would have several nights like that. And it would go weeks, and it would just, I mean, it was hard on our relationship, but
that was the up and downs that we went through. You know, I feel like that was a lot of the hardship of, you know, how do you stick with somebody when you're going through with that? You know, how do you like, that's got to be hard on anybody. There's not a lot of people that can handle that. So,
but I'm just as superstitious as like any professional, non-professional athlete there is. Like I will, if he's getting base hits, I will stick in one seat until the game is over. I have burnt to a crisp in one seat because I got so sunburned because he played well. And after the game, I was just like, "You're welcome."
Was that in Round Rock?
It was in Round Rock.
Oh my God, I remember that.
Right. I even went in between innings and went and bought a hat from like the other team because I was dying. I turned it inside out. I was like, whatever, I don't care. Yeah. So I was fried. But he ended up going 3 for 4 with 2 doubles and a home run.
I remember that because we were in.
He even saw me. He was like, "Go in the shade." I was like, "Mm-mm."
So anytime that she would come to my game, especially when I was in the minor leagues, I always look for her. I always make it a game, and everybody's like, "Oh, it's a distraction." Like, no,
it's like hide and seek.
It's like hide and seek. I enjoy being able to look at her and like before I go to that. And I remember like our beginning in our relationship when you'd come to my games, I'd do so crappy. Would never do good. And I was like, you don't need to come to the games. You just stay at home, blah, blah, blah. Now, when she does come to the games, I always try to find her, look at her, smile at her or whatever. Even if I'm not doing good, it makes me feel a little bit better about myself. But I remember that game because you were literally right behind our dugout. And I'd look at you and I told you, go in the freaking shade, dude. But yeah.
What's probably one of the biggest things that you've had to learn or adapt to or find within yourself, Sarah, to be able to not give up when it goes weeks without being able to see each other, and just even the days of, hey, I love you, click. There's that emotional part where it's like, can I do this?
Patience and learning that it's going to be okay. Like I'm a very needy person when it comes to Austin. Anything else, I'm not needy. I don't need anybody else. I need Austin most of the time.
In what way?
Just
mentally,
and I don't really like to be alone. And if I say I need alone time with Austin. I don't have to talk to him. He can just be in the same room as me. But if he's just near me, I'm happy. But if he's not around and like I would be by myself all the time at the house with the dogs, it was very sad. I mean, we live in it's not a big house, but it's a 3-bedroom house. But a 3-bedroom house with 2 dogs just seems very large, especially when I'd go home and I'd just go into our room.
Yeah.
And cooking for one person is never fun. So if y'all could have been around a couple years ago, that would have been great. That would have been wonderful. We would have cooked less. But it took a lot of just patience and knowing that it was going to work out. And I knew that it was going to work out, whether it took him the amount of years that it took him, whether he didn't make it in 2018, he was still in the minor leagues. Mm-hmm. I knew that he was going to make it, and it was going to be worth it in the long run. So I just had to wait.
So you would imagine, whenever I got my first phone call, finally getting called up to the big leagues, like call my parents, mm-hmm. all that. Like, she was the first one I called. She's been a part of every single journey as much as I have been. Yeah. And as much as I think my parents probably got a little upset about it, I was like, I spend more time with my
wife.
And at this point, she had no idea, but I've already was planning on proposing to her.
Oh, so you guys were married
before I even got called up. Okay. So like my sister and my mom already knew. They helped me pick out the ring and everything. And then, it almost was like a storybook telling about getting engaged and getting called up to the big leagues. So
that's a movie waiting to happen right there.
Yeah, exactly. People, yeah. So, but yeah, like I said, it's like a storybook. But like even then, like FaceTime or called her, she's crying, I'm crying. Like it was a very emotional day, and to know that I find like all the hard work I put in was finally getting paid off for that moment. And
did you know that may be happening?
I did. I don't know if he did, but I did.
What?
That you were getting called up.
I didn't. So
I did because I was like a Twitter troll and I would keep up with everything.
Wow.
And I saw that they had just traded.
You were, or you still are?
No, I don't get on Twitter anymore.
Liar.
It's not baseball season. Why would I get on Twitter? I don't care right now. I saw that they had just traded one of their pitchers to I think it was the Angels.
Yeah.
And so there was a 40-man spot open. And Austin had been killing it. And there was no way they were calling anybody else up over Austin. If they were, I was going to lose my absolute mind.
Which had happened.
Several times. And
Several
I
times.
almost lost my mind all those other times, but I kept my cool. But as soon as I saw that, I was like, there has to be a chance. There has to be a chance. And he had already called me, and they were going to go to like dinner or something. And
Cookie Connects in Memphis.
And I was already like in bed. I was going to go to sleep. My phone started ringing. It was like after midnight, and I was like, this has to be the phone call. It has to be. I was like, there's no other reason he would be calling me right now. And it was.
So when you get called up, walk us through that entire process. New contracts, what all happens with that?
So ironically enough, we were in Memphis, which is the AAA affiliate for the Cardinals right now. So
the irony.
Irony right there. But I was in Memphis. The game was over, and I showered up.
You had played very badly.
I played very bad. I played very badly that game, and I already wasn't happy. So we leave. A couple of my teams, we go out to Cookie Connects, which is right down the street next to the stadium. And as immediately as I sat down, I get a phone call from my manager. I didn't even have his phone number, and I'm sitting there, he was calling me. He goes, "Hey."
Your business manager or your team manager?
Our team manager.
Okay.
So he calls me, "Hey, it's Arnie. Need you to come back to the office." I was like, "All right, cool."
Okay, so was that like oh shit?
No, I sat there and said that. It was like, okay, it's happening.
Oh.
Like you kind of knew.
Gotcha.
I kind of had a feeling I knew. And in my mind, I was like, no, it's not. Whatever,
Yeah.
Still nervous. So I go back into the stadium, go into the office. All the coaches are in there. So he was trying to make it seem like I was in trouble, and then he finally told me I was getting called up.
Really?
Yeah, told me I was getting called up, and I had built a really good relationship with all my coaches that year, and it was really cool to experience it with them, and then some of my teammates that were still there from after the game, and it was just so cool just to finally hear that, but it didn't really kick in until I got to the stadium. We were playing the Braves that day, so I got on a red eye that morning, flew to Atlanta, and then I was at the ballpark at maybe 12:30 or 1 o'clock before anybody else was there. And I sat there for about 2 hours until somebody had showed up, and then got all my stuff, got all my gear, got dressed.
Did they ever have a locker set up with all your stuff there?
Mm-hmm.
How'd that feel? That had to feel
It
so
was
cool.
so cool.
Yeah.
I sat there taking pictures of my jersey, sending it. I'm like, this is unreal. But as soon it didn't till you stepped out into the field and you saw everything, you're just like, holy shit, man. It was unbelievable. I think the more memorable one was getting my first hit, which was the next game we played, which
it was a home run, wasn't it?
It was a home run. It was.
I did my research.
we were in DC. Phenomenal. One of my favorite ballparks to this day so far.
That was actually a question from one of our followers. What was your favorite stadium that you've ever played in?
I wouldn't say that was my favorite stadium, but it's one of mine. But we were in DC, and then we were facing Max Scherzer that day. So I think my first year, I faced every freaking good pitcher that year. It was unreal. So we faced Scherzer. He gets out in the 6th inning. They pull in Trevor Gott, and that was my last at bat, I think. And then 2-0, threw me a fastball, and I just absolutely crushed it. And that whole moment, you grow up as a kid, that's what everybody wanted to do, their first hit being a homer. So I got to be a part of history with that, and it was, everybody knows that too. Not people that have asked me about being in the big leagues and oh, yeah, what was your first hit? Homer. No way. That's so cool, dude. Yeah.
So when you walked out of that dugout, it was your time to be.
Dude, my heart was.
Did you want to pass out?
It was on a different level.
I can't imagine.
So here you go. I'll give you a little history buff here too with that. So my first game, we had got into a brawl in the first inning. Before my
First pitch.
First pitch. Before I even got an at bat, we got into a brawl. You can go look it up too. So, and I'm out in the outfield, and he gets hit. I turn back around, kind of look in the stands, and it's packed there in Atlanta. And then I kind of turn back around, and benches are cleared. I'm like, oh shit! And I started sprinting just to get in the pile. I wasn't gonna do anything, but I was just
I'm
there.
not going to stand out here either.
I'm not
Stand in
just
the
gonna,
back somewhere. At least
I
you're
see
close
I see
enough.
the guys with the bullpen running. I'm like, oh, damn, I gotta run in real quick. So that happens within a matter of minutes from the game starting, and I'm already sitting there and my heart's racing. I got fans in the outfield telling me that I'm a piece of shit, that, like, it's my first, I don't know what to do. Like,
Guys, I'm new.
I didn't do anything, dude.
Yeah.
But no, that was like, again, I can't sit there and regret that or wish something else happened. It's a part of me now. It's a part of my experience, part of my storytelling to, to tell people about all this, and that's one thing about playing baseball, dude. There's always stories to tell from things that you've experienced and, and other people that have talked about. Like, that I love the fact that I can sit there and I can remember something that happened like a couple years ago that was just so funny, and and other guys exchange their stories, and we just sit there and we kind of shoot the shit and talk about that.
Mm-hmm. So when you're coming up to bat and you're warming up, swinging the bats, is there like inside going, oh shit, like this is happening? Oh my God, this is happening.
I felt like I was gonna throw up before his
really?
first at bat.
My first at bat, 100%. Like that first game, yes, and then once I finally got my first hit, it kind of went away, and then now for you maybe not, but for me now it's just like. It's like kind of just second nature. So,
okay, so everybody talks about the first hit was a home run. What about your first strikeout? How'd that feel?
Just like any normal strikeout.
Yeah.
But
no different next level pressure.
No.
Yeah.
No, the game's so much harder. Like each level you go up, and especially that level, you're facing the elite of the elite. The 1%ers that we talk about, like that, like. It's almost expected for you to not do well. It takes a very rare bunch of guys to stick around there for 10 plus years to do what they do, and you want to be a part of that elite group, but I will say not my first strikeout. But if you go back 2018, I was Max Scherzer's 300th strikeout on the year. 2018. Nope. 2018.
That's no good.
He had signed
to be a part of history.
I was also strikeout 294 that game as well.
Really?
Yeah. So our backup.
You're welcome, and you're welcome.
Our backup catcher was his catcher for years in Detroit. So he had got him to sign me a ball. Max Scherzer says to Austin, "Thanks for being Mr. 300. Couldn't done it without you."
That's cool.
And I have it in a case
in
my house. But I talked to him after that, like super cool about it. Like, and he said, "Thanks for being like a good sport." I was like, "Dude, I don't care. Like, congratulations. Like, we'll be on SportsCenter for next couple of years, whatever." So
I got a question from one of our Instagram followers, and this is the Jonathan Burr. No, I think you know him though.
Oh
Right?
gosh.
He's one of my friend's nephew that him and I play Fortnite together.
Do you?
Yeah, I give him my bats stuff. He's a good friend of mine.
So his question is the best Major League Baseball player that you faced.
That I faced.
Mm-hmm.
God, all of them. I mean, like Max Scherzer, Jacob deGrom, like, oh, dude, that entire division that I was in was just with elite talent. Just if anybody, it would have been Steven Strasburg in 2019 was the best pitcher I ever faced that year.
Yeah,
literally couldn't touch him.
Couldn't hit the ball past the mound, actually.
No
couldn't touch him that year.
If he touched it.
He was by far the best in my opinion.
Did very well that year.
What coach do you give the most credit to? This was a question from Hunter Bazan on Instagram.
What coach do I give the most?
Mm-hmm. Dude, probably my dad, to be honest.
Yeah.
And like I said, like my dad sacrificed my mom sacrificed so much money, time on the weekends. Just, forever he will be my coach, obviously. But like I give him probably the most credit just for. Oh yeah, and Mike Stanton. You got
lots of hours of Mike.
Lots of hours of Mike Stanton. Mike Stanton, if you guys don't know, he was a 20-year big league pitcher for the Yankees, the Braves, the Reds a little bit. But he is my pitcher is my hitting coach in the off season.
Really?
And a lot of people kind of sit there and go, "Why do you do that?" Well, we get more just a different side of what he sees, versus what I'm thinking. So we kind of just get on just a different level of like, as a pitcher with a guy that's had just years of experience of being in the big leagues and facing Barry Bonds, Griffey, just the elite hitters of the 80s and 90s. So, we'd sit there and we'd talk, things that he would look for, things that he was thinking and he was going to be doing, So I get more of the pitcher side from him, and I feel like that's had a huge play in my career. Just being with him since I've gotten drafted. We've been going for 8 years now. Mm-hmm. So him, my dad, I give them the best credit.
Lots of nights with Mike.
A lot of nights, like there's nights I wouldn't be able to get until about 9:00 at night, and I'm his last guy, and he stays up, with me, time away from his wife as well. So. He's
we were earlier today.
Yeah, literally right
Yes.
before this, I was just with him. So again,
you were doing batting practice, weren't you?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So he takes just as much credit as my dad does.
So January 15th of this year, or was it 14th? You got traded from the Marlins to St. Louis Cardinals. Did you know that was coming?
No,
really,
not at all. The whole
because you're just kind of a commodity in sports, right? In baseball, you're just you're being traded like a card. Right?
As bad as that sounds, yes. Yeah. But that's the business side.
I don't mean to minimize. I apologize.
No. I see that. It's the business side of baseball that nobody talks about. Just like how business have to operate, they have to do the same thing, but it's just kind of trading people.
Is it more of a salary cap thing or?
No, because there's no salary cap in baseball. We're the only sport that doesn't have a salary cap.
Wow. Just what the owner can afford.
Yeah,
pretty
just
much.
what they want to spend.
So being traded, it was out of nowhere. I had got designated for assignment. So what that means is I had basically taken off the 40-man from the Marlins. And so during that 7-day period, teams can either trade for you or claim you off waivers after about 4 or 5 days. So I was going through that process, pretty much jobless at the time. And it had been day 4, day 5, and I was already not doing so well, just kind of upset the fact that I was, no longer probably going to be with the Marlins, and had spent years with them, being drafted with them, and a lot of my teammates that I'd grown up and we gone through the system that were in the big leagues as well, built a great relationship with them, and that part, saying goodbye to that part, kind of sucked, but I got a phone call from my agent. He goes, "Hey, heads up, you're probably getting a phone call from the St. Louis Cardinals." I was like, "No chance, no way." Because we were talking maybe Detroit, Baltimore,
Kansas City
teams that needed an outfielder, and then get the phone call from the GM from the Marlins and told me that I got traded to St. Louis Cardinals. Got a phone call 5 minutes later from that GM, and
phone calls the rest of the week.
Just the whole week from the manager all the way down to the strength coach, welcoming me in and. Yeah. Basically congratulating me on being a part of this. And it was very welcoming. And I told her, I'm like, this is nuts. This is incredible already that that many people have already reached out in that organization. So
within the first week, I had already had emails from the family relations people as well.
Wow, really?
Giving me the information, their communications with them. It was just
the way they
very different. It was very welcoming, very family like.
Yeah. Yeah, the way they go about their business is, in my idea, is ideal. They truly care about you, and
not so much of just different culture at the Marlins.
It's just different. I'm not trying to shit on them by any means, but it's just a very different. I
feel like there's more open communication with the Cardinals. It's just even there was when he got hurt after COVID, there was questions about when he was going to be reactivated after his 10-day on the IL, and he asked one of their trainers about it, and they were like, "Oh, well, they gave him some reasoning," and the next day the GM called him to explain to him what was going to happen.
Yeah,
that would
never happened with the Marlins. Again, not to shit on them,
just some people just run their business a little bit differently, and they're John Mozeliak is just he wants to be personable. He wants to have a good relationship with his players, and
the communication portion of that organization is perfect. There's a perfect amount of if I need an answer, or if I just have a question, I can easily call somebody, and it's no big deal. And usually when you get your phone call from a manager, you're kind of like, oh shit. It's very personal. How you doing? All this stuff, giving you an update, asking about your well-being, genuinely caring. I got a phone call every day from my manager when I had COVID. How are you doing? How's your wife doing? All right, if you need anything, call me, let me know. So that to me is huge,
Mm-hmm. I think probably 80% of the staff have his cell phone number.
That's good. I think that's good. You should be able. It should be able. Like if you need me, call me.
Yeah.
I like that. It's an open door, but I also know the boundaries of when and when not to call somebody about that.
Right.
So.
Because the communication is a key part, but it was the first time I've ever seen a company where the CEO was so directly connected to all staff.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like just my direct reports, but it was everybody. And his phone goes off all I hear his phone all day.
I can imagine it's so hectic, huh?
It's insane.
So how much did COVID really affect you guys? How much?
So we have, between the three brands, we have Tune Up, Manly Salon, Martinis and Manicures, the Women's Retreat, and Balance Foods. Balance Foods is only 2 months old.
Yeah.
And we have pretty big aspirations. So we opened it January 5th, and the goal is to get to 9 locations in the first year. Obviously, when COVID hit, sales dipped in that brand because every restaurant became our direct competitor. We're the only company in the entire area that did healthy takeout meals, and we were competing with every single Mexican restaurant doing, here's a free margarita if you just come buy a fajita, right?
And then your ass, I took that one.
Yeah. So during a pandemic, the people that people that are wanting to eat healthy and drink water goes to almost zero.
Yes.
Right. People are more focused on kind of the getaways, the alcohol and the consumption and the easy button, as opposed to being disciplined and staying healthy. In the healthy food business, March, April, and May are really the 3 months to shine.
Mm-hmm.
January, everybody kind of just gets back in the routine. February is a little bit clunky, short month. Valentine's Day in the middle. So our time to shine was supposed to be March, April, and May. That's when we were going to just have this explosive growth. So kind of got X for the year. We'll end the year at 3 locations with 3 more in construction. So a little bit underwhelming in terms of the development growth, but the brand's rock solid. Mm-hmm. What that allowed us to do, the fortunate part, was allowed us to make sure we had the next few chapters wrote, that we just had to execute on it. Mm-hmm. Trying to build a company from scratch and then scale it very, very fast in a short time frame is tough to do because you almost feel like you're building the plane as you drive it, as you fly it. So it gave us a little bit of a time to go through and refine our vendors, refine our ingredients, refine the recipe, make sure the consistencies are in place, the right team's in place for the growth. Actually get the extra delivery vehicles before we open up citywide delivery.
That right there, I felt like was huge, especially for y'all. There's not very many healthy food delivery places anywhere.
Well, that's something that wasn't even our business plan, right? Our original business plan was we have a 5-mile radius around a store, and that was our delivery radius. So each location would have 1 small delivery vehicle and only deliver within 5 miles of the store. Hopefully to try to work with gyms or fitness facilities or those types of areas, yoga studios, kind of deliver food to that direct specific client base. People want the healthy food across the whole network, and they don't feel comfortable putting that responsibility in the hands of someone that makes it in LA and then dry ships it from FedEx to your door 2 days later.
That's not fresh.
And it sits in the Houston heat in July for all day long while you're at work.
No matter how much ice you have in it.
No matter how much ice, it's going to melt.
It's not fresh.
So that was kind of a blessing there. And that's, as we grow, we're growing into Tampa now. And as we grow into Tampa and other markets, we'll have that citywide delivery out of the gate. A little bit of pain in the butt in terms of insurance and vehicles and licensing and permitting, but definitely worth it. Yeah. On the Tune Up brand, we had to go through a shutdown. Tune Up Martinis and Manicures, one of the exact same, really between March 7th and March 23rd, and depend on the county when the county decided to shut us down. Montgomery County was the last one to shut us down. We were shut down March 23rd all the way until May 1st. So 40 days. It took us 4.5 years to build. We were at 48 stores then, 4.5 years to 48 stores, and 520 employees in 2 weeks to bring it to 0.
I will definitely say the way how the government and how everybody handled COVID this year was not ideal.
No, it wasn't ideal.
But I do condemn the people that
one of the biggest frustrations on my side was the uncertainty.
Yeah.
I had to look at 500 people and say, I'm not sure what's going to happen next week.
Yeah.
I hope to have you back. I just don't know when.
And again, and that's something that you've had to face as a business owner, of having to deal with that, the unknown, and it was kind of like that with us. We had no idea if we were going to play this season. We kept doing the back and forth. Like, it was like, hey, we're going to be maybe 2 weeks and then we get back.
One thing that was great, you kind of talk about the teammates and the working relationship and the friends and the business partners and the family and such. And when you're up against the guns, when they really either are with you or they're against you. And the team had a pretty good chance of mass exodus because I took a pretty strong stance against the shutdown. And we sued the state of Texas, sued the governor direct, was on the news a couple of times, front page of Franchise Times magazine. with a free hugs too soon t-shirt on, and red Nike Air Maxes. So I took a pretty,
So good.
Love
you know,
that.
there wasn't a, in the spa beauty
Yeah.
self-care area, there wasn't anybody else that was really steadfast against reopening and letting us do our job.
Yeah.
And I was a proponent of it because we were the best in sanitation and quality and care
Mhm.
beforehand. And the things that the stylists and the cosmetologists and barbers deal with every single day is nearly mirror to
Yeah.
COVID.
So for people that haven't been to Tune Up, the social distance protocol, if you want to call it that, that's already applied there, in my opinion.
Yeah, where you do it.
Yeah.
So this
You know?
is just kind of coincidentally. Sometimes you fall into some dumb
Yeah.
luck. When we were designing it, I always didn't like being too close to the next guy.
No.
Mhm.
I don't want your hair on me. You're gross, and I don't want your hair on me. So
I'm
we,
offended.
yeah. So initially we had these kind of stainless steel dressers, and we changed them into toolboxes to fit the brand more. But we wanted a big distance.
Mhm.
So from the center of a chair to the center of a chair is 8 feet. Whereas if you go into some of our competitors, it's about 3 feet.
Yeah, like a normal barbershop, it's like
On top of
stacked.
each
It's
other.
on top. I
Yeah.
never liked that.
So it gives the barber and the stylist a little more room to work.
Yeah. They get their
Uh,
own little personal time to whatever they want to talk about.
Yeah.
He might stink.
Yeah,
I
who
mean,
cares?
Yeah.
I know there's time or two that I've gone after workouts too. I know I didn't smell pleasant. I felt so bad for ever cut my hair that day. So bad. Yeah.
But it took a bit of a recovery, you know, just from the team and getting the momentum back up. And it was, and I think, you know, that may correlate just from, you know, the majors, any team for that matter, trying to figure out how they're going to have a season through this, how we're going to have a company through this, you know, some of the government funding, and you know, now we've got this new stimulus package, and a lot of companies just couldn't make it. You know, so from a competitive standpoint, like you say, we're able to get some vehicles that, you know, the company was downsizing, and we took advantage. You know, it was, it's been weird. On one hand, you see a lot of small businesses close. On the other hand, you see others that were able to at least come through it a little bit, are able to kind of take that and continue to grow. But like for you guys, like one of my curiosities was, well, if there's no season, clearly there's no ticket revenue, there's no airtime revenue. How are you going to afford to pay all these players?
Exactly. Think about guys that have millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars, making 20 million a year. How are you supposed to pay those guys? So like even then, like we all had to take a pay cut this year. You know?
Really?
Yeah. Nobody got paid the exact amount that they were supposed to be. So we took a pay cut just to be able to play this year. And that was our agreement with Major League Baseball, is to be paid for the days that we are playing. So we got paid for the, how many games did we play? 130 or no? How many games did we play this year?
60 something.
Was it 80 or some, however many games we got paid for those days and those days alone. So,
Wow.
and we wanted to play more games so you get paid.
Yeah.
That's how it's always been. But the back and forth that we had with MLB it was just like prying like your teeth out of somebody's mouth. Like it was difficult. Like we never knew like what was going to happen and when we were going to go back, if we were going to go back. Like it was just ongoing, and it was very stressful.
We lived out of suitcases at our own house because we didn't
For
know
months.
whether to unpack or to just stay packed, because I
Yeah.
didn't want to unpack everything I had packed to go to St. Louis, because I
Yeah.
was like, this took a long time to get all this in here. I don't want to take it all out and put it back in.
Yeah.
But we ended up having to we were home for so long that
We were home for 2 or 3 months, I felt like, right? 2 or 3 months, and
We didn't leave
this
till
is
the end
when
of June.
this is when Texas was in its lockdown phase, so gyms were not accessible, and that was a thing that we had to do, is we had to consistently keep working out. Like it's not like, hey, we're on vacation. It was like, yo, y'all need to keep working out, be ready for whenever you get the call so we can go back. So the trainer that I'm with right now, he lives right next to the place that he owns, so he was not allowed to even open the facility no matter what. So he ended up making a makeshift gym in his garage, and we would go, 2 people at a time, and he's got hundreds and hundreds of people. So, and we somehow we managed to do it, and we would go work out in his garage.
go do that and go hit at a place that was very sketchy. We had to open up all the doors just to be able to see him and one of his other buddies that he works out with. They hit a light, and the light ended up falling
Yeah.
in the middle of them hitting. Which is
Yeah.
But
we-
their
we-
normal
yeah.
places were all closed. You just had to make something
Yeah,
work
we
in
had
order to work
We had to
out.
make do with what we had, and you know, that's something that like again nobody talks about. Nobody knew that we went through that. You know, we tried every way possible to, you know, kind of make everything back to normal, and you kind of couldn't. It was all at the point like, oh, you can get fined for not following protocols. You know, like this is when we were at like a low point in time in America. I feel like, you know, so just when things were not being handled the right way, in my opinion.
Was that across the board, even with ownership? Like, because it kind of sounds like even for us, like, you know, that Major League Baseball is kind of like the governor, and they're dictating what you can do when players or teams are like,
Well, I mean,
don't really agree.
If you remember the whole debacle like earlier this year, it was, oh, the players are being greedy. It's like, well, no, we're not. Like, you know, it took us however many years for us to get to the position that we're in, and there's the perk of being a professional baseball player is being paid the money that, you know, that you are getting paid for. You know, you've earned that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so that's what the big stigma was, is Major League Baseball was very obviously making it a point to play as few games as possible so we wouldn't be getting paid. So in my situation, I make league minimum. So I wanted to play as many games possible so I can make enough money in the off season so we could be financially secured. You know, that's how I looked at it. So the owners and the commissioner, they're all in on everything, you know, like, but it's nothing that I can do about it. Like I have no say in anything, and kind of have to go with the role with it. You know what I mean?
So, you know, with the career playing a sport, you're going to have so many years that you can play. Some guys have been playing it 10, 15 years. Do you often ponder and consider, like, what am I going to do after this game?
Oh, every day.
Yeah.
I always sit that. That's like part of my anxiety.
Really?
Oh yeah. I sit there all the time thinking about what would I do after baseball. And, you know, we always get asked about like, you know, hobbies and stuff like that. And people are like genuinely like not curious, but like they sit there and what do you do besides baseball? Well, I do some graphic designing I do like self-taught graphic design. I fly drones, love playing video games, you know. Piano.
I noticed some drone footage you had on your Instagram, actually, from some vacations or something.
That's from our honeymoon.
While during spring training, like I love flying my drone. I taught myself how to play the piano when I was in 7th and 8th grade.
Really?
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of things that like baseball players do outside of baseball that it's actually very intriguing that they're really good at. So, but that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, I got hobbies just like normal people do, and I enjoy doing that. So, you know, as far as what I would do besides baseball, it's, you know, it's still an unknown. Like, you worry about it sometimes, but I kind of just live in the moment and try to, you know, whenever that time comes, I'll figure out what I'm going to do.
Yeah. So I've got a couple of things here. I took some screenshots from Instagram. I want to get a little backstory from some of these posts and maybe give a little explanation to what this was all about. So this is apparently you in the dugout, and it was flooded.
Yep.
So kind of tell us about that. What's going on here?
So I think that was in 2013. That was in Batavia, New York. So that stadium was built in 1937.
Wow.
So and it had gotten rebuilt back in 96, but the playing surface had stayed the same. Okay. So it wasn't a very good field. Like I played on like some Little League fields were probably better than that.
Really?
Yeah, the playing surface was terrible.
Wow.
So the stadium being as old as it was, it had just absolutely downpoured that game. I was in left field, and I saw this huge black cloud behind me, and it was just a matter of minutes. And it started actually pouring in the outfield before it even hit the infield. So we're still playing. I'm getting drenched. And then it finally just slowly came over top of the stadium, and then it just stayed for like 45 minutes. And I guess our drain and our dugout had got clogged, you know, dirt, gum wrapper, seeds, whatever, you know, whatever was on the floor. And we started noticing it, and the water started rising, and it kept going. So some guys just kicked it and went to the locker room. I stayed.
That's funny.
And, you know, I made a joke of it, and I just so happened that one of the photographers got that, and that picture got put in ESPN the magazine.
Really?
They had called me that 2 days later and said, "Hey, we're putting this in ESPN the magazine. We want to do a little interview with you about it." And, you know, they asked me the same thing, like, "Why'd you do it?" You know, blah, blah, blah. It's like, you know, just to be funny. Like, that's if you describe a picture of who I am,
That's it.
that pretty much sums it up.
It's not the first time he's played in water in a dugout. Swam in New Orleans.
Yeah, like in New Orleans, same thing. Like
In New Orleans.
yeah,
Yeah.
dugout got flooded, and it was one of those ones where
It's like swimming in Galveston.
But in New Orleans. No, it's worse than Galveston.
it
I'd rather swim in
It
Galveston.
was pretty bad, but our dugout got completely flooded. So like our dugout, and then we had stairs that went down into the tunnel, back up, and into the locker room. So the dugout and the stairs leading up to the locker room was completely flooded with water. And so I decided to go swimming
With a floaty.
Nice.
swam into and then all the way into the dugout. So
Heck. He got sick. Don't worry.
I got sick.
You
of that.
So what's in there?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one, little backstory leading up, and what was this moment like?
Yeah, for you.
Oh, I cried.
You did?
Yes. Well, okay. So his sister and him had been lying to me for months, apparently. My ring had been sitting in her safe, and I was at her house all the time, and I had no idea. I would complain to her about him and rings and stuff all the time. And it was there the whole time, and she would just play along like, oh, yeah,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I can't believe
Sisters
he would do that.
eating it up.
Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. They were lying to me this whole time. We're on our way to his sister's house because we're going to go to dinner. It was on my birthday. We were just going to go to Perry's for dinner. But they said that her mother-in-law wanted to do a champagne toast at sunset. Not far-fetched for her. If you met her, you would understand. And she wanted to do the champagne toast to toast Austin, making it to the big leagues, and it just happened to be my birthday. Again, everything's about Austin. Sarah's second thought happened to be my birthday was the thought process. And of course, Austin played along like it was a big deal. He's like, oh, I don't have to go do this. But then we're on our way, and he's like, hey, do you have our inhaler? I'm like,
Oh, dude, I was sitting there.
like, why do you
heart
get an
was
inhaler?
racing. I was so nervous.
And then we had to stop and get like puffs or something for one of his nieces because she was hungry, but they weren't ready yet. That's why we needed to stop. And him and his brother-in-law went to go fly the drone because he wanted to play with the drone before he bought that drone. And I was like, okay, whatever. I'll just ride over with Lauren. And we're walking up, and I'm complaining the entire time we're walking up because it was humid. It was hot. We're having to walk through like this.
That is so rich.
It's like it was heavily wooded where we were walking through at first. And I'm like, why are we having to go on a nature walk for this? This is ridiculous. And then there was roses on the ground, and I was like, geez, your mother-in-law's extra. And I turn over and look, and she's gone. I was like, wait, where'd you go? And then I look up and I see a photographer, and I was like, wait, why is there a photographer here? And I look around the corner, and I was like, oh, it's happening now, right now.
This
Okay.
is happening.
And I walked very quickly. Very quickly.
You were crying before you even got to me, dude.
I have no idea what he said. Not even close. I couldn't tell you anything. Not even a thing.
I was just telling her about my comic book collection, and then she said yes. Oh, no.
Okay, so this one, I think this was actually your first Instagram post.
That wouldn't surprise me. Oh, yeah. Dude, so I was very notorious in high school with all my bats because I hit the ball way too hard apparently, and they just broke. Like that's how it always was when I was a kid. Like with those metal bats, like growing up, there was just so much like that they could take, and it finally just hit a point and they would crack. But that was just like that was just very normal at the time for that when that happened. So when my bats were done, they just had these huge freaking cracks in it. You know, and the one on the bottom, I had cracked that one, and I thought it was a smart idea. That I was like, let's just go finish it off a tree, and I would sit there and I was hitting off a tree, so I can just,
Gotcha, yeah.
so
Shatter it.
pretty much shatter it. But yeah, those are
Dang.
there's quite few more than
Yeah.
just those three that I posted. Yeah, those aren't anger issues. Those are just
Well, I was wondering.
yeah, no anger issues. The one on the right, that happened during a game. I hit a ball and I just hear dong, and it
Really?
completely came and snapped. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
So you get bats made? Or do you have like a bat?
So I use a bat called
Sponsor?
Victus. I'm not sponsored by them, but I've been using them ever since I got into pro ball, and I get as many bats as I need from them, and I've built a really good relationship with them that. I can talk to the owner. I can text them right now and just shoot
That's
the shit with
cool.
them. It's great people. They've same thing. They were nothing to start off with, and now, in my opinion, they're one of the best bats in the game of baseball. They've completely grown their brand from the 8 years that I've been with them.
Yeah.
So
two final thoughts, two final questions. For any person out there, any player that is younger, has aspirations to, gosh, could I ever play in the bigs, right?
Mm-hmm.
What would be that, if you could talk to your younger self when you were playing Little League or in high school, before college recruiting and any aspirations of majors, what would be that piece of advice that would be that nugget, that takeaway to?
I mean, for me, I feel like it's, if you have the aspiration for it, like, why not? Like, the worst that can happen is, no.
Mm-hmm.
After that, like, I feel like you can find something to go on without it. But at a very young age is that I knew that baseball was my passion and my dream. Mm-hmm. So, and I also think a lot of guidance helps with that. So your dad, or just a role model to have, is something good, in my opinion. But as far as advice, I mean, you're never going to know if you don't do it unless you give it a shot. What's
right.
like, if you want to be an astronaut, dude, be an astronaut. You'll probably have different ambitions as you grow up, but I think that happens when you get to a certain age, and if it's just not your passion or ambition anymore, and then don't waste your time.
Yeah.
Unless you really, really want to do it, and then you have to put the time and effort for it. Like I told you, like, I wish I would have started doing a lot more weight training when I was younger, just so I feel like I could have had a better competitive edge at the age of 18, 19, and 20.
Yeah.
So I feel like I got a little bit late to the game, but I didn't think it affected me that much.
As a couple, whether it's business or in business, you're a pro business player, right? As a professional athlete, what advice would you give Sarah when it comes to couples that are maybe new or getting married, and somebody's already kind of playing, there's kind of already in that culture that can create wedges, create opportunities for being divisive? What advice would you give for couples to be able to stay strong through all of that?
Communication is key, and realizing that him saying that he's tired is not a reason that he doesn't just not want to talk to you. He's actually just tired. And if he's not tired, he wants to play video games, he needs to relax. Like, communication is really big, and knowing balance, and knowing that it's not all about you, and it's not all about a relationship. You have to be, in all relationships, you have to be willing to
give up something.
Yeah, to compromise with everything. And my thing with compromising was I wanted him to succeed. Like I said, whether we were together or not, I didn't want to be the reason that he wasn't going to succeed. And I feel like you shouldn't hold anybody back with what they're doing, whether it's business, baseball, whatever. You should want to self-promote yourself, just promote everybody. Just communication and making sure that you're 100% behind the person and believe in them. Because if you don't believe in them and believe in what they're doing, then you're going to think that they're wasting their time.
As much as guys want to sit there and be this big, macho, strong guy, but behind closed doors, everybody's got a soft spot. And for me, my soft spot is being able to openly communicate and talk about, what I'm actually really feeling to somebody, and it's my wife. And I'm very fortunate for that I can be able to openly talk about what's on my mind. What am I feeling? How am I going to get through this? Why am I not good enough? Do you still love me? Stuff like that stuff that just goes through people's mind, especially mine, just with just trying to prove, or just to be better, or just to, want to do my best. It's just being able to communicate with somebody, especially like that. So like I said, I'm very, very grateful that I got to meet Sarah, got to know her, and to, now to spend the rest of my life with. And, we can talk about whatever really is on our mind. And I feel like a lot of relationships, they don't want to do that.
We've had a lot of friends and couple friends that I've talked to, and I know the girls are tired of the minor league life, and they'll say, oh, I just wish that he would stop playing. I wish this, or baseball isn't everything. And there was probably a couple times in our relationship where I was just like, okay, well, like, when is this gonna pay off? But we talked about, if he didn't make it past whatever year, this is when we would talk about, okay, maybe it's time to start looking at other things to do and go down that way. But I feel like if you can't have, like I said, the communication, then you're going to have that resentment. And we've seen a lot of couples that we knew fail because baseball is like probably the second thing in our life.
I would agree.
Besides our marriage and God, second comes before baseball comes before everything. It does. And I am okay with that because I know it's a part of my life and it always will be.
And then anything?
Awesome. Great conversation.
Guys, thank you for coming in. It has been really super cool just kind of getting to know you both since we met, a while back, but really appreciate you taking the time to come and sit with Anthony and I and just kind of let us get to know you guys and share your story.
That's what I'm telling you. That's what I love about baseball is that there's always stories to tell. So I feel like I've already given you guys my life story, but
it's a great story.
I don't know. I'm a pretty open book, man. I don't have a problem talking to people, and I don't have a problem telling them, things that I've gone through. I enjoy doing that to inform people and just to know what it's like. Like there's just the things that you see maybe on social media is not what they are perceived to be, So
for people that want to connect or follow you, how can they get into the circle of Austin Dean?
I'm on Instagram. I'm not very active on it because I don't like social media, but if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's at AustinDean_3. It's a guy with a Cardinals jersey. It's hard to miss. But I do answer a lot of people on social media. I've had kids ask me a lot of questions about, certain things of, how to get exposure or how to, do this or do that. And I've talked to some of them. I've built some relationship with some fans. And there's been a lot of people that I've met along the way that, care deeply about me and my career and hope I do well. So, if you want to ask a question or just everyone talk, just follow me on Instagram to ask me a question. Pretty
Comment,
easy.
slide into the DMs.
Slide in the DMs. It worked for somebody.
Worked for me.
But I'm taking ladies.
She managers of social media? Oh, okay, yeah. Well, guys, thanks again.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having us on. This was a lot of fun, and just to be able to talk about our story and to be able to listen to you guys, and obviously the COVID struggle as well. So I appreciate you guys having us on. Don't be afraid to ask us again.
Awesome.